right, I think we will go ahead and get started. It's my pleasure this afternoon to introduce two outstanding educators from Lincoln Elementary School. Anna Jones serves as our assistant principal. Anna, if you will wave to everyone at Lincoln Elementary. Lincoln is K-5. And Karen Woodruff is our STEM coach at Lincoln Elementary. She's our former media specialist and elementary teacher. And I see their principal, Jay Hooks, is joining the celebration this afternoon. Welcome, Mr. Hooks. And ladies, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell everyone about Lincoln Elementary's journey towards STEM certification and share all the great work that is currently happening in your school. So welcome, everyone, and so glad to be with you from Talladega County in Alabama.
Well, hello. We're so excited to share with you today the journey that we've been on. Like Dr. Lacy said, I'm Anna Jones.
I'm Karen Woodruff.
And we're so excited to talk about this journey. The picture you're looking at here was actually taken the day that we earned our STEM certification. So you can see the relief and smiles on all of our faces that we had crossed that finish line. So immediately, the first thing that, you think about is why go through this process? Why seek this out? This picture here is of our reviewers, the two reviewers that came, and our leadership team that led us through the process as we navigated. But, when you think about why you want to do this, you're thinking about your validation of your culture in your school, of the learning style that you promote, and in Talladega County, that our belief system. And this has really gone back for my entire career. As long as I've been in Talladega County, inquiry-based, problem-based learning has been something that has been a focus, starting out with Phil Schlettke's work of working on the work, and also moving into working with Buck Institute, studying PBL, and then into becoming members of the League of Innovation through Digital Promise. And, there's just so many things that have shaped who we are in Talladega County, but ultimately the process that we followed through with Advanced Ed, which is now through Cognia, it just lined up perfectly with who we are here. So one thing that if I was to, go through this again, these are the same steps that I would take. We went through this process in 2018, 2019. So, prior to the review, so 2017, 2018 for us, these are the steps that we took to prepare our staff. First, we took the indicator rubric survey to evaluate and really see if who we say we are and the way we do things around here, if they lined up accurately with what Advanced Ed had defined as, a STEM-based school. And so we developed our STEM leadership team, as was pictured before, and we started to collect evidence. We even added at their end of year checkout for our teachers that they collected pictures and things from throughout the year from different PBLs that they had done. That was part of the checkout process, to have those pictures to turn into us. We determined our evidence platform, and we used a Google site, which I'll share with you later. And then, we started to really dig into our professional development and looking at what we were putting in front of our teachers. So, like the SAMR model, and, the process of PBL, and, performance-based assessment, all of those kinds of things were topics that we focused on prior to our review. And that really shaped our strategic plan. So it also pushed us to think, when you look at that rubric, what is STEM? What does it look like at LES? And of course, it's all those things that immediately come to mind, coding and robotics and 3D printing, all of that. But, that engineering design process and PBL are the things that, wrap all of that together. And so it took us, I mentioned before that 20 years, we can't go back that far. So for us specifically at LES, we tried to think about what was a turning point for us. Going back no more than 5 or so years, what was a major turning point? And this actual picture is the room that we're in. You can see it behind us. We put this timeline on the wall in our war room to help us as we were thinking and discussing with our review members, not just our parents that were interviewed and our teachers, but to help us think through and give us that guidance as we were talking them through our journey here. And so that pushed us all the way back to 2015, and Ms. Woodruff's going to talk about that.
So back in 2015, 2016, there was a group from Talladega County Schools that went to visit a school system in South Fayette, Pittsburgh, right?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Ms. Jones was one of those that got to attend, and also Shannon Hill. She was our instructional partner, technology integration specialist at the time, and she came back with the idea of makerspaces. I was the library media specialist. I had seen it before, but I didn't really know how we could make one work in our library. But when she came back with pictures and ideas, we just kind of ran with it. So that's where we started. We cleaned out an entire section or a side of our library and turned it into a makerspace. You can see some of the pictures of some of the activities that we have in our makerspace still today, even though that was 5 years ago. Of course, we've added to it. And the makerspace is a place where they can just be creative. There's no set of standards or rules that they have to follow. There's no specific lesson. It's just a place for them to build and imagine and create. And there's no risk of them failing, of something not working right. They know that they can go back and figure out what went wrong. They're using that engineering design process. They're planning up what they want to build or create, then they're building it. And if it doesn't work like they want it to, then they start over. They figure out what went wrong and fix it. So that's pretty the notion of the makerspace in our school, is just for them to be creative. Then we looked at our just STEAM environment in general. So we had the makerspace going, but we needed the rest of our school to kind of showcase what we are doing STEM-wise or STEAM-wise. So we made innovation stations. You can see one in this screen. Those are located 6 or 8 places around the building. There's whiteboards beside it where students can sit and talk and collaborate and work together, and they can make notes on the board and, erase and whenever they're working on different projects from classrooms. And then we also decided that we were ready for a STEAM lab. So the first year we had our STEAM lab, Ms. Hill and I was still the library media specialist and she was still the technology instructional person. But we wanted to do it. So we just made it work every afternoon. We focused on 4th and 5th grade, and we integrated it with what they were doing in their classrooms, but we couldn't make it school-wide. So for that first year, it was just 4th and 5th grade in the STEAM lab with us as teachers. And then eventually it's like it is now, where we see everybody. It is kind of a ongoing PD while being a classroom and while being lesson with students, in that it's not a free time or a break time for our teachers. They stay with their students in the lab. And so that way they can see what we're doing. And then hopefully our hope is that they'll continue it when they get back to the classroom. So these are some of the programs that we use in the STEAM lab a lot. Of course, robotics, B-Bots, Ozobots, Spheros. We 3D print with Inventor Cloud, Tinkercad. We use Makey. We use virtual reality with CoSpaces. Hummingbird is also another amazing robotics kit that we have used. So, and what I do is I plan with the teachers and I see what they are like. For this, for example, we're doing some paper circuitry next week because in 4th grade, they are teaching and learning about electric circuits. So it's whatever they're doing in the classroom. It's like the STEAM lab is an extension of that. And that's another reason why we want the teachers to stay in there with them so that they know what I'm doing, and because I am more limited in my class time with them, then they can take that back to them and extend it in their classrooms. Okay, and then after we got the STEAM lab established and the makerspace was first, we decided we needed to add more. So we started a breaker space. And what this was, or still is we take old devices. Everybody has old devices in their building: printers, computers, keyboards, monitors, towers, everything. And we would put them in a specific area in the makerspace, and yet it was called the breaker space. So students could take things apart and see what's inside and make them work. We do have specific lessons there sometimes where they'll take apart a certain item, see what's inside, and then repurpose it and use that what they find for something else. That's not always the case. A lot of times when they're in the makerspace area, they just want to go into the breakerspace and see, it's fascinating to them what's inside a Chromebook or what's inside a monitor to make it work. So we have added that as well.
Okay, so, when we looked at all of these spaces in our school and how students are learning and communicating and being creative, at the nucleus of it, what we realized, the seamless part, is that engineering design process, which crosses all content area. So no matter what you're working on, project-based learning is co-curricular. It encompasses everything that students are learning, and the opportunity for them to look at a problem, plan a solution, see if that part will work, and readjust the plan and go again. That endless cycle of thought is really at the center of our belief system here. And that connection to real world problems. I'm getting tongue tied this afternoon. So, reaching out to our community members and our stakeholders, our businesses, and having them pose problems to our students that are authentic and connect to their standards. So it's not just random, hey, I think we might try this. No, it's really targeted.
Add something here. You can see on this middle picture of this tweet, this was actually a 5th grade teacher last year who called in a local architect, and the architect explained the software that she uses and how she designs houses. And then our students, first they created a cardboard house with cardboard walls, and they had to measure and make sure everything was, each block was a foot, so they had to make sure everything was measured out correctly. And then they moved that into 3D printing, so they 3D printed these rooms, and then they also went into SketchUp, which is a program where they can kind of design what they want their space to look like. So that was a big real world connection that our kids loved last year.
And the architect came back out and gave them feedback. So not just the kickoff part of it to get them started, which connected to their math standards, but she came back out and gave them feedback, and they presented their home designs. And all of those things that they're doing in 5th grade connected to what Dr. Lacy mentioned earlier in the tiny house project at the high school. So imagine when those 5th graders are at the high school, in our feeder pattern, how much more deeply they'll understand that tiny house project from their 5th grade experience. So throughout the review, so when we moved into 2018, 2019, we identified who our interview panel members were going to be. So our teachers that were going to be interviewed, our parents that were going to be interviewed, and our business leaders, our community partners that were going to be interviewed. We continued that professional development that I mentioned, really targeting in on things, from walkthroughs and, visits. We also made sure that our instructional expectations, our observations and feedback that as administrators we were providing teachers lined up with what those expectations and indicators were through advanced ed. We met with grade levels, to plan. We met with individual teachers to plan. And then we also utilized Dr. Andre Harrison. He came out and he did a walkthrough here at the school and interviewed some people and gave us feedback to, let us know, were we ready? And it helped boost our confidence that in fact he felt as though there wasn't anything else that we needed to do, that we were there. One thing that we did pull on, from in the past, when you go through accreditation, you built an evidence box, and your teachers kept those things in their classroom for that review process. Well, we created an evidence box so that when we were in this war room, and let me give you this explanation. Our war room, the reason why we call it that, because this is where we come together, just like, in battle, your leaders would come together to strategize. So when we come together in this room, our war room, it's when we are strategizing and planning what's best for our students. And so we would have that evidence box in here with us when we went through the review process, so that if they had a question, any of the things that we thought that they may need to see hard copies of, then we could just pull those things out at our fingertips. We collected data for 2 years, through our demographics, speak up surveys, student surveys, teacher surveys, and we collected a variety of evidence that went beyond pictures. And of course, this is not required at all, but anytime, you have visitors, and we have visitors all the time in Talladega County, just, this is a place that people come to visit to see, authentic project-based learning experiences, but we wanted to provide that hospitality, the footprint of our community. And so, we gathered up gifts, items for our review members, which is again, not required, but, items from Honda. We have Honda manufacturing here, local, NASCAR. We are the home of Talladega Super Speedway. Also a cookbook. You can kind of see it in the picture from our PTA. That was a PTA fundraiser. So they left with a variety of recipes from our families and our community. So just to, to remember who we are and what our footprint is. So at the end of the review process, we have a findings conversation, and that's when they're going to go over, all of the great things, and they're also going to talk about the challenges, so that in the next 5 years, when you're up for certification again, you will have addressed these things that they've identified. So one thing was that, we do have pre-K in our building. We're pre-K through 5th grade. We've had pre-K for the last 3 years, and they wanted to see us include pre-K in the same lens as we are our kindergarten through 5th grade classrooms. And, one thing that we realized, and what's a great thing about going through this process is, it's a self-evaluation. You're digging in and thinking about your why behind each thing that you do in your school. You are thinking about the way you document the things that you do in your school, your communication with your parents, and it's just every facet when you go through a partnership like this, through an evaluation. And we realize that our community partners, like what Ms. Woodruff mentioned about the architect coming, those things are much stronger at the 3-5 age than they were at K2. So we've had to really look at ways that we could strengthen that. And one of those was doing a reverse career day, so that, typically career day happens in the spring. We held one in the fall so that teachers could connect with lots of opportunity and with their mind's idea of their standards and what they were trying to accomplish in the year ahead. And then in the spring, for the students to showcase what PBLs they had completed through the year, and then the business leaders, the community members, come and give them feedback on what they had actually done. So that was a way for us to address that K2 portion. And then, of course, as I mentioned, they go through the praises, the things that you do well. And, I'm proud to say that consistency was part of that, that our engineering design, our rubrics, learning targets, vocabulary, they said that it was more than just physical. It was what was coming out of our students and our teachers' mouths and our parents, that it was clear that this is just how we do things around here, which was very validating. They complimented the layers of professional development and just our environment and culture and the community involvement, and of course, soft skills, which that's something that PBL is a great avenue to strengthen students' ability to communicate their thinking and their thinking about their thinking. So, that was very validating and something for us to celebrate. As I mentioned, the platform that we chose was a Google site, and this is a screenshot of what that looks like. You can scan this QR code. I'll leave it up for just a second. So if you want to do that, it will take you to the Google site that we used. And then, of course, this is mine and Ms. Woodruff's contact information. We love to have visitors. Of course, the reality is we are in COVID. We're navigating a landscape that we never would have imagined. But so at this time, we're not having visitors other than virtually. But we soon look forward to the day that we will welcome people back through our doors, and we would be happy to have you. So, if you have any questions or want to plan a future trip, you can reach out to us. And I believe Dr. Lacy is going to share the link to return back to the main session.
Yes, thank you, Anna and Karen. For our audience today, the link has been posted in the chat room that will take you back to the main session, We are right on time. In fact, we have about a minute or two left, and we just want to say thank you for learning more about Talladega County Schools. As you might imagine, the Talladega Speedway is just right next door to Lincoln Elementary, and that is a wonderful partnership to have the Speedway in your neighborhood. We have partnered with them for a program for our elementary students called Speediatrics, that really brings all the STEM work and concepts together to work with our young students to understand the dynamics and the physics and all of the science that goes into play at the Speedway. We are awaiting our spring race coming up this April or late April, early May. And that's a big to-do in Talladega County. In fact, we have to close our schools early and start later when the race is in town in a normal year, due to the number of visitors that come to Talladega County. So much of our school calendar is built around the two races in the fall and the spring. So that's unusual for most school districts in Alabama. Just looking quickly at the chat room. Thank you, Becky, for visiting our site today and learning more. And again, I just want to remind the audience that you can click on the link that will take you back to the main session. And I think you need to do that right now. So from now, so long from Talladega County Schools.
Bye-bye.
Bye.